Hey, what's going on, you guys? It's George, aka GA Medical here, back with another video. And today we are going to be reviewing the all-new, recently added Magic Keyboard for the iPad Pro. This thing, it's just sick. You just if you haven't seen the trailer, here it is. First thing I want to mention with the new Magic Keyboard is the price point. This thing is ridiculously expensive, which is causing a lot of people not to buy it. So if you look at the 11-inch iPad Pro, it goes for around $300. And if you look for the 12.9-inch iPad Pro, the price point for the keyboard is about $350 just for a keyboard itself. I mean, that's crazy. Also, I think it's worth mentioning that it's not only compatible with the 2020 iPad Pros, but also compatible with the 2018 iPad Pro. The purpose of this video is to review the Magic Keyboard and for you guys to get an idea of what it is and whether you want it or not, because obviously it's ridiculously expensive, and if you're gonna pay that much money, you wanna know if you're gonna use it or not. The first thing worth mentioning is the weight of this product. As you know before, the iPad Pro is extremely light, and that's one of the main reasons why people really like it. Is the fact that it's extremely portable and you can just take it with you wherever you want. But here's the crazy thing about this keyboard. The keyboard actually weighs more than the iPad itself, which is understandable because if we really wanted it to work and we really wanted it to float, we kind of needed the base and the keyboard itself to be, well, heavier, so it doesn't just tip over all the time. The reason I want to include the weight of these is because we all know the main reason for an iPad Pro is because it's extremely portable, and that's pretty much everyone's like pitch point of why they would buy an iPad Pro instead of a MacBook Air. So now adding this keyboard, which is making it essentially a laptop, is just adding a ton of weight to it. So now it's basically the same weight as a MacBook. But even though the keyboard is heavier than the iPad, it does not get rid of its portability, because if you still want to use the iPad and just carry it around by itself, it's still extremely portable and surprisingly very, very lightweight. So let's kind of clash these together. Basically, what you do is you just open the keyboard case up just like you would a laptop, and you just take the iPad and you hook it on by magnets. There are these very, very strong magnets on the case itself, and it's very easy to hook on. And trust me, it is not going anywhere. And it's nice. Can we just appreciate how cool this looks? The fact that we just have this iPad floating. I mean, things are just looking good as time goes on. At first glance, you do see that the keyboard is very, very slim as opposed to regular MacBooks. Now, this is probably an unpopular opinion, but I actually prefer this, and I don't know why. I think maybe, but this is just a hunch though, the fact that it is flush with the table, like it's just flat, and your hands aren't kind of like at a angle like that. You're just kind of flat, and it's just, I don't know, it's comfortable. Okay, but before I really go deep into this review, I need to address one important thing. Now, there are a lot of reviews about this Magic Keyboard out on the internet, out on YouTube, whatever you want to see about it, you can go look at it. But I think the reviews overall are very biased in this one aspect, and that's when you open it up with the tablet inside the Magic Keyboard. So everyone is complaining that you can't really open it with one hand as you would a laptop, and you just can't open it from the bottom up without it being super hard. But that's not how you should be opening it. So the right way to open this kind of configuration is from the top to the bottom, as opposed to the bottom to the top. And I think people are missing this. And yes, you still can't really open it with one hand, but to be honest with you, I don't really think that affects the functionality of it that much. And I think people are just complaining for, well, no reason. I mean, is the world really gonna end if you use another hand to open your laptop? It's just, I don't know, it's kind of ridiculous. Like, it's sick. It's super cool. It opens amazingly, and I like it. So, the design. Now, I will say that this product is very expensive. Like, you can just feel that it's got a premium feature to it. If you just use it, it just feels very pricey. It feels very premium. And, well, you feel like you got your money's worth, to be honest with you. And, man, this whole thing just looks absolutely sick. The fact that you're just able to plop your iPad on there just via magnets, and it's just ready to go without any lag, and it's crazy. Apple, you did a good job designing this product, and I had no complaints whatsoever. Well, I have some complaints. We'll get into that later. So when you first open the Magic Keyboard up, it has a first sense of click, and then after that, you're able to adjust the screen back and forth to your liking. It just kind of snaps into place, and it's just kind of ready to go, and you just adjust the angles. Now the angles are from like, I would say 90 degrees to like 130 degrees. And these angles, I really don't have a problem with it. A lot of people are complaining about how far back it can actually tilt and if it's not enough. It's more than enough for me. I never had a time where I was just sitting there and just wishing it could go back. So if you get one, I don't think you're going to have a problem with how far back it goes. It's just ridiculous. It goes far back enough. It's good. Trust me. Now the closing experience is just as awesome and sweet as the opening experience itself. So when you do close this, it kind of eases itself into closing. Like imagine you're shutting a drawer and it kind of eases itself in. This is kind of the same thing, and the magnets kind of stick themselves together. And you know closing is nice because when you're hustling for 2 hours and you just want to end it on a good note, that's the perfect way to do it. So the keyboard itself is not bendable at all. It's actually pretty nice and it's sturdy. At first, I really didn't think it was that durable, and I honestly thought it would break very easily. But after using it for some time, this thing is just, I mean, let me just show you guys. Look at this. I mean, I'm bending this as much as I can. There's no bend to it. Like that's just great quality. Apple, you killed it. Apple decided to include scissor-based switches with this keyboard, and let me just tell you, I tried MacBook Airs, I tried MacBook Pros, and this keyboard is by far the best keyboard I've ever typed on. And like the response of it, the clicking is, I don't know if you can hear it. It's important. It's important to have a really good keyboard, and the click is kind of cool. You feel like you're a CIA hacker. Now, the trackpad is pretty cool. It's not just like your standard MacBook trackpad. This one is actually clicky all over, and I'll give you a demonstration again. Listen. No matter where I click on that trackpad, it is, well, clickable. And honestly, it's a good touch. It's not a selling point, but it's pretty pleasant. I like it. Of course, with this clickiness madness, that does not get rid of our tap to click. As most of you Mac users probably know, you don't actually have to click the trackpad in these MacBooks. There's a tap to click feature where if you just kind of like lay your finger on the trackpad, it'll click for you. And this thing does the same exact thing regardless if it's clicky everywhere. So if you don't like that, you still have tap to click as an option. Okay, one of the greatest things that I think they included within this case is the pass-through charging. If you look on the side, there's this long rod that just sits in the back of the MacBook. I just called this a MacBook. This port was specifically made for using external devices while charging your iPad at the same time. So it gives you that extra feature. Now, what does this port do exactly? It adds the ability to charge your iPad as well as using external devices. Because as you already know, the iPad has a charging port itself, and now adding it to the keyboard case too, you can hook up two things at once. It's just an overall laptop experience again, and yeah, it's really sick, but we'll get into the details of that later on. This iPad actually charges surprisingly very, very fast. Now with this whole new pass-through charging thing that they added, it makes you wonder, well, if I charge it through the case itself, it won't charge as fast as through the iPad. You're right, but to an extent. To be honest with you, there's not much of a difference if you charge it through the iPad itself or through the case, maybe like a 1% or 2% difference, but nothing crazy like that. Now, adding this pass-through charging, I think is a great idea, but I have two main problems with it. Number one, the only thing you can use this pass-through charging for is, well, simply charging. And this poses a problem because what if I want to use that for external devices and charge my iPad through the iPad itself? I don't really like that, and the reason being is because if I do put a dongle on my iPad, I don't want it to be hanging off the iPad and cords are everywhere. I think it'll be much more organized if you're able to hook up the external devices right on that slot of the keyboard case, but it's fine. We're able to charge it, we're able to use external devices at the same time. Not a problem. I'm not complaining, just a concern. Okay, number two. Now this one is not just a concern, this is a complaint. I do not like this at all. So yes, you can use pass-through charging through the case, but Apple made it specifically only usable through Apple's chargers, and not even Apple certified chargers, literally Apple model chargers. I'm personally a huge fan of using Anker branded chargers. Anker is an Apple certified brand, and honestly, it charges way faster than just a standard Apple charger. And this is kind of disappointing because, come on, Apple, like, why can't I use a different cord? It's kind of weird though, because even if I use like a portable charger that isn't from Apple, well, it works just with the Apple cord. If I use the Anker cord, it just doesn't work at all. Regardless of these two concerns / complaints, I think this is a great feature, and honestly, I'm in love with the idea of now I can use this, well, like as a MacBook. I mean, I can use my external devices while I'm editing something, while I'm pulling up a document, anything, while charging the iPad. at the same exact time. Okay, so let's really deep dive within the specs of the keyboard itself. So as I mentioned earlier, the keyboard has scissor-based switches, which, like I said, makes the typing experience completely awesome and just better than any other MacBook that I've ever tried. Yes, other MacBooks do have scissor-based switches, but I don't know, there's just something about the clickiness and the moving of this. It's awesome. I like it a lot. Guys, also another crazy feature, this keyboard is now backlit. That's right. Even in those dark rooms when you need to type up those documents, the iPad got you with the new Magic Keyboard. But this feature does pose a problem. And the reason being is because there's no way to adjust the keyboard backlighting at all. It's just set to auto backlighting, meaning with the amount of light that's in a room, it just kind of adjusts itself. As we already know, this new Magic Keyboard gets its power solely from the iPad. So if we do have backlighting constantly, it's gonna drain power from the iPad significantly. If you really want to adjust the keyboard backlighting, you have to literally go to settings, go to keyboards, go to hardware keyboard, and just tweak it from there. I hope later on in this iPad OS 14 update, like sometimes in the fall, they eventually add something where you can just adjust it within the control center. I mean, that will just make everyone's life better. You're probably wondering, why can't you just adjust the keyboard brightness from the keyboard itself on that top row of keys? Well, there isn't a top row of keys. Yes, Apple got rid of the complete top row of keys, and I think this is the main problem that is coming from a lot of reviewers. So what does this mean exactly? Well, from the keyboard, we get rid of the escape button, we get rid of play, pause, and next. We also get rid of adjusting volume and brightness of certain things. And this is where the problem starts. But I don't think this really matters because now we have touchscreen. And if you really want to just escape something, you could either pinch or drag up to go home. And if you really want to adjust the brightness or anything like that, you could just pull down the control center and adjust it from there. And I promise you, the time it takes for you to adjust it via iPad Touch rather than the keyboard is not a significant difference. Another thing that we get rid of as opposed to Mac is the ability to use Command Q. For those that don't know what Command Q is, this probably isn't for you, but Command Q is used to quit applications, and it's just a fast keyboard shortcut to do so. To be honest, I can't think of a reason why they wouldn't include this. I mean, it's just a keyboard shortcut to quit out of an application, but I have a solution to the problem. Instead of hitting Command Q, you can just hold Command and hit tab and toggle through your apps that are open, and anyone that you're on, you can just hit Q and it'll quit out of it. And honestly, it's kind of cooler because they're all organized and you can see which apps you're actually closing out. And yeah, so that's about it for the keyboard. Now the trackpad itself. As I mentioned earlier, the trackpad is clicky everywhere, and I'll show you again if I need to. Like the MacBook, it's pretty much the same, except for one, it's clicky everywhere, and two, it's pretty small. But I don't think it's going to change the experience of it. I think they made it just the right size for you to be able to use trackpad gestures just as you would in a MacBook with no problem at all. Yes, I said trackpad gestures. Now with the new Magic Keyboard, you're able to use all the trackpad gestures that are within the MacBook on the new iPad Pro. Now, in terms of cursor support from the trackpad, I think it's amazing, but I think there's still a lot of work to do. First of all, I love the minimal circle mouse feature that they have. It just makes everything look good and minimal, and I don't know, it's just appealing to my eye. Also, the latching feature that they added with this is quite amazing. The ability to hover over any apps and it automatically latches onto it like a black hole is just awesome, and it makes finding apps that much easier. But being that Apple released this Magic Keyboard out of nowhere, it shocked a lot of companies, and a lot of apps are struggling to catch up with this trackpad feature that they have with the iPad Pro. For example, if you were to use something like Microsoft Word to edit a document, if you hover over the words, it doesn't necessarily turn into a line as it would in like any other like note-taking app via typing. So this just makes it extremely difficult to edit documents because there's no like pointer cursor to be able to highlight words and delete words and just find the right point in between words or in between letters or stuff like that. But hopefully in the near future, all these apps update themselves so we're able to use the line pointer and the latching feature all throughout the iPad. I will say one of my favorite features about the cursor is the ability to customize. There's many different colors to choose from. There's the ability to make it bigger or smaller, and there's also ability to turn on trackpad inertia and control the speed and all that stuff. So if you don't like it and you want to change it to your appealing, you can do so. Okay. Most important part, you cannot mimic a laptop if the device you're using isn't, well, lappable. So is this new Magic Keyboard for the iPad Pro lappable? Yes, it is very lappable. At first, I was very nervous and scared because I knew that this thing was very top heavy, and if I put it in my lap, I thought it would just tip over every time I was trying to use it. But this is not the case. Any position that I tried to sit down or lay in, no matter how complicated it was, the iPad didn't tip over, it didn't bother me, and it just worked very, very well. Also, a side note, wherever I sat down or laid down, I could rotate the screen just enough for my liking, and it was just a great experience overall. Yes, this case is top heavy, and yes, eventually there is a threshold if it tilts far back enough that it can actually fall. But that threshold is pretty far, and I don't think you're gonna hit it quite often unless it's just kind of unbalanced or it's just not on an even surface. And your lap is a perfectly flat and even surface, and it just works well, and this thing is just not going anywhere. I promise you, if you get one of these, you will not have any complications if you want to use it on your lap, period. Now, the most frustrating thing about this configuration that I hate entirely, and Apple, come on, you cannot tilt the keyboard in any way for it to use it in tablet mode. And that's just annoying, because it's a tablet. We should be able to tilt it in some sort of way for you to get in tablet mode. There is a way that some people are saying works, but to be honest with you, it just doesn't work enough. And this way just has a keyboard in front of your face and the iPad just keeps falling over. It's not the way to go. So anytime I had to use it in tablet mode, I had to literally remove it from the magnet, lay it flat on the surface, or shut the case and lay it on the case. But being that these strong magnets make it really easy to put on and take off, that is not the problem. The problem is I do not like it fully flat all the time. Sometimes I like the iPad at an angle, and I don't really want to put it on the table because this thing costs like $1,000. I do not want to scratch it by writing on some flat surface that's like wood or concrete or whatever the table is made out of. So far, I haven't really had a major problem while using it in tablet mode. Yes, sometimes I wish I can elevate the top just so it's slightly at an angle, but if you think about it, a paper is usually flat on a table, and now an iPad is. So, I mean, it's not that big of a difference. If there's any other complications in tablet mode, I will for sure let you guys know. So, now that I broke down everything about this new Magic Keyboard, do I recommend it? Yes, I do recommend it. Well, it depends on the kind of person that you are. Personally, I really feared buying this because I knew I was going to use this more as a tablet rather than a laptop, and when I heard that there was no way to configure this thing to use in tablet mode, well, I was hesitant in buying it. But to be honest with you, after using it for about 2 weeks now, I think it's sick. I mean, I like the fact that I can just pull it off and show people something, or pull it off and write something. And even if I have to lay it down on the keyboard or lay it down on the table, this is just a problem that I can deal with, and I can just go accustomed to it. So if you are someone like me as a student that is mostly going to use this as a tablet, I still would think that this is a nice feature. But if you do have a MacBook at home that is fully functional and you can use it as a laptop, I would be opposed to buying this. Unless obviously you have the cash to burn, or you kind of just want a laptop that's able to have a touchscreen feature to it, as MacBooks do not have that. If you are comfortable with buying it and you have the cash to spare like that, go for it. I think this is a great purchase, and I think it'll up your productivity by crazy, especially if you're a big iPad user as myself. I have the 2017 MacBook Air, and to be honest with you, the keyboard on this is better and the processor is just way faster. So honestly, I got rid of that thing, and this is my main laptop/tablet now. So if you're like me, go ahead, buy it. You're gonna enjoy this, you're not gonna regret it, and you're gonna be able to flex on people at university. I mean, you have a floating iPad now. That's sick. Obviously, if you get anything new, there's gonna be a slight learning curve. And with this new configuration you have going on, well, there is a slight learning curve with the new trackpad gestures and just overall the new keyboard and just getting used to using a tablet and a keyboard at the same time. But once you get past those features, I promise you, you will enjoy this every single day of your life. But yeah, that about wraps up today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed, and honestly, I really hope I answer some questions for you and maybe influence you on buying it or not. And I hope whatever choice you make, you're able to be successful in the long run. Let me know in the comments if you ended up getting one, or if you're on the verge of buying it, or if you just have any other questions that you want to ask me about it before you buy it. So yeah, that's gonna be it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed, please smack the like button and hit the subscribe button and turn on post notifications so you can see every time I post. I mean, you really don't want to miss it, do you? Come on. Please be safe with this whole pandemic going on. Wear masks, wash your hands, and just take your vitamins and just be a healthy individual. But without further ado, I'll see you guys on the flip side.